Over my years as a financial planner, I've sat across from a lot of women in high earning years of their careers. I've also sat across from women approaching retirement and those already in it. And I've heard the same handful of regrets come up again and again and again. Not just from people who ran out of money, but from those who had plenty. And that's what surprises people because they think that more money in the bank automatically means more confidence and happiness in retirement, but it doesn't always. So today I'm sharing with you the 5 biggest retirement regrets that I hear from high earning women, and more importantly, what you can do right now to avoid every one of them. Regret 1. Playing it too safe with their investments. This is the one that catches the most careful savers, and it almost always comes from a good instinct. You worked hard for your money. You changed your priorities around to make that job or that promotion work. You don't want to risk what you've earned. So, as you start thinking about retirement, you shift more and more into what feels safe. Cash, short-term bonds, things that don't move much. And for a few years, that security feels great. And then the math catches up. Because what actually happens with a portfolio that's too conservative is this. It grows slowly. You start taking distributions from it. Inflation keeps working against you the entire time. Individually, none of those things look alarming, but together, over the years, they erode the base you were trying so hard to protect. But this can hit women even harder. According to the CDC data published this year, a woman who reaches 65 can expect to live about 20.8 more years on average. For men, it's 18.4. That's not a short amount of time. That's a portfolio that may need to keep working for another quarter of a century. Money that isn't growing at all over that stretch isn't safe. It's shrinking in real terms. It's just happening slowly enough that you don't notice until it matters. Of course, you can absolutely go too far the other way as well. Constantly chasing high-risk investments or being too aggressive at the wrong moment, that can cause real damage too. The regret here isn't that these retirees didn't make huge swing for the fences type investments. The regret is that they didn't allow themselves to take more risks back when their portfolio had enough time to recover if those risks didn't pay off. So understand your own risk appetite. Review your portfolio consistently and make sure that the allocation still matches your goals and your time horizon, not the goals you had when you set it up 10 years ago. Regret 2. Working years longer than they needed to. I've worked with so many women who ended up working another 3, 4, 5 years past the point where they could have comfortably stopped. They hit every goal they had. They usually just didn't know they'd hit them. And you can't get those years back. People plan as if retirement will look identical whenever they start it, as if the trips and the hikes and the energy will all be waiting patiently. But a hike at 62 is a very different experience from that same hike at 68 or 70. Where this comes from is almost never greed. It's rarely even about the money. It's a confidence gap. Somewhere underneath, there's a question that has never been properly answered. Do I actually have enough? What happens if the market drops the year after I retire? Will there still be something left for my kids? And when nobody has ever sat down and answered those questions with real numbers and a real projection mapped out, the safest thing to do is work one more year. If you can, consider working with an advisor who will show you exactly where you stand, not vaguely, specifically. How will each of your retirement goals get funded? What happens to your plan in a downturn? And what will actually be left to pass on? When those questions get answered properly, the fog clears. And a lot of the time, that provides the assurance needed to retire on time and with confidence. If you're in your highest earning years right now and aren't sure the best way to go about securing your financial future, or maybe you're planning for retirement and want to get more clarity on where you stand, that's exactly what we help our clients do. If you'd like us to take a look at where you are now and help you map out your clear next steps so you can save, invest, and retire confidently, you can book a free call with me using the link in the description. Regret number 3. Not protecting their health while they were still working. The third regret that I hear the most is nothing to do with money, and it's one that tends to hurt the most. I've watched women push themselves incredibly hard for a career they were genuinely proud of. They hit retirement with more than enough saved and then discover their health can't keep up with the life they've been picturing. Retirement isn't a reward that shows up automatically. It's another phase of life, and it has to be prepared for in exactly the same way you prepared financially. What to do about it, and there are 3 parts to this. First, look at your health now while you're still working, not after. The version of you who retires is the version you're building right now. Second, set boundaries with your job, with your volunteer commitments, with your family, your friends, and honestly with yourself. High-achieving people, especially women, are extraordinary at setting boundaries for everyone else's benefit, but often aren't as good at setting them for our own. Part of that is setting a retirement date that actually works for you and then working toward it instead of letting it drift. And lastly, if you already have health issues or you have good reason to expect them, build that into the plan rather than hopping around it. If mobility is a concern, plan the move to a single-story home before you need it, not during the crisis. If you're likely to need care, put the cost of care into your projections now while there's still time to fund it. Nobody enjoys the conversation, but planning for it is what keeps it from derailing everything else. Regret number 4, not getting help sooner. The market drops, the news gets loud, and someone cashes out. They move everything to cash or make a permanent decision based on a temporary event. That reaction isn't really about the market. Like we mentioned earlier, it's a symptom of not having a plan that you understand well enough to trust. When you can see how your plan handles a bad year because someone actually walked you through it, volatility stops feeling like an emergency. When you can't, every headline feels like a decision point. Not everybody needs a financial advisor or planner. If you're great with a spreadsheet, enjoy managing your own investments, and have a retirement plan that you can stay on top of, then that may be the way forward. But for many people, the benefits of an advisor shows up later down the line. I'll give you a real example. I worked with a woman who reached the age where she had required minimum distributions kick in, which is 73 for most people retiring now. Her required withdrawal that year was around $140,000. She didn't want the money. She didn't need the money. But required means required. There is no opting out, and the penalty for skipping it is 25% of the amount that you should have taken. So $140,000 landed on top of her other income. All of it taxed as ordinary income in one of the highest brackets on the table. And because that spike raised her income for the year, it also exposed her to higher Medicare premiums 2 years later through the IRMA surcharge. But the most painful part? Almost all of this was avoidable. Spread across her 50s and 60s with Roth conversions in the right years and a withdrawal plan built ahead of time, that same money could have come out far more efficiently, leaving more of it for her and her family. By the time we met, the options had narrowed to damage control. So review your situation and your long-term financial goals. If you feel like you have questions you need answered, consider speaking to a professional sooner rather than later so that they're planning the future with you instead of undoing the past. Regret 5, retiring without a purpose. The most common regret I hear, and the most crippling, nobody warns you about what actually leaving your career does. It isn't just the paycheck, it's the structure of your week, the social aspect you became used to, the sense of being needed, of being someone people call. I've seen accomplished women hit that wall and feel genuinely lost, and it takes them completely by surprise because everything on the spreadsheet said they were fine. So here's the advice I give everyone. Retire to something, not just from work. Get specific about what you want out of this chapter, not the concept of retirement, the actual content of it. If family matters most to you, think seriously about retiring near them. If it's travel, start planning the real trips now with dates and work toward them. Whatever it is, you want a calendar with things on it that you're actually looking forward to, not just an empty one that used to feel like freedom. And one more thing that people find harder to hear than it should be, your work friends were, for the most part, work friends. That isn't cynical, that's just how proximity works. So build other connections deliberately while you still have the structure to do it. Join the group, start the hobby, make the plans that don't depend on a shared office. The more you do in preparation for retirement, the smoother transition usually is. But if there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's that a good retirement isn't a one-time decision you make. It requires active, dynamic planning, and it's intentional. And every single one of these regrets is avoidable, not with more money, but with better planning. Starting earlier while there's still enough for changes made to take an effect. So if anything in this video landed a little too close for home, use the link in the description to book a free call with me while there's still every option available to you. We'll look at where you are, what you want that next chapter of your life to look like, and exactly how to get you there. But now that you know these common retirement regrets and how to avoid them, is it possible that you're ready to retire now? Or at least earlier than you think? That's exactly what I cover in the next video. 6 signs that you might be ready to retire earlier than you think. I'll see you there.